It's Saturday, October 3rd, 2020. A absolutely stunning evening here in Palm Desert, California. The sun has set behind the mountains behind me. A gorgeous evening, still warm, but a beautiful evening to say the least. You know, I was thinking earlier this evening just about the year 2020 and just how chaotic it's been. We all have heard the news about this incident with the president. 2020 has just been crazy, and here we are with a retail apocalypse, volatility in the stock market, massive uncertainty, massive unemployment, these massive debts and deficits, people living paycheck to paycheck, people not knowing what tomorrow is going to bring. And 2020 has not disappointed. It has been a wild, wild ride, and I believe it's going to get even more wild to finish up the year as we get closer to this election. But there are many threats out there, politically, economically, infections, man-made and natural disasters. There are plenty of threats out there. But one of the biggest threats, in my opinion, beyond any other, is going to be this massive debt. And I was reading an article this afternoon. I believe it came off of the Drudge Report, and it is titled "Lengthy Era of Rock Bottom Interest Rates Leaving Its Mark on U.S. Economy." And in this article, it talks about CalPERS. This is the $400 billion pension right here in California. It provides benefits for 2 million current and future retirees. It's the nation's largest public pension fund, and it fell short of its goal in the fiscal year that ended June 30th. So now the pension is embracing riskier investments like private equity. They're going to take more risk to try and get that 7%. So what they're going to do is, now that rates are so low, they're going to borrow billions of dollars. So we have the nation's biggest pension fund borrowing billions of dollars, taking bigger risk in these markets. These pensions, like CalPERS, they need 7-8%. That's what these retirement pensions rely on. Low rates are going to force these bigger pension plans to take bigger risk. It's going to get much harder, I believe, for these pensions to meet these promises that they've guaranteed to these people that are involved with these pensions. It's going to be hard to guarantee this income that they've guaranteed to these retirees that are in these pensions. And this is a powder keg right here. Very, very dangerous. So we've seen this time and time again. All these corporations who took all this cheap money, right, like the airlines, and now they have no cash. Business has slowed down. They have no way to pay it back. How is CalPERS taking on billions of dollars of this cheap money ever going to be able to pay this back? And they're taking big risk. And with big risk can come big losses. And so I saw that article, and it's just another grenade on the floor, and it's another warning to everybody out there that don't rely on your 401k. Don't rely on your pension. It may not be there for you. They are taking humongous, dangerous risk, borrowing billions of dollars, risking it in these markets. And when these markets implode, what do you think is going to happen to your pension? You need to have a backup plan. You better have cash reserves. You better be sitting on real assets. You better be getting prepared, because all this is sitting on a massive powder keg. And when it blows up, it's going to blow up into a million pieces, and people are going to be left stranded, broke, nothing to fall back on. And this is why it's so imperative that you have to be your own central bank at this point. You really have to be really thinking outside the box, be an independent free thinker, and be prepared for the worst case scenario. You know, earlier today I went online and I looked at the national debt clock. If you ever get a few minutes, check the national debt clock out. If you want to see reality, if you want to see how big the debt really is, if you want to see what is really happening, check out the national debt clock, because I think it would really scare you. I think a lot of people would be blown away with seeing the massive debt out there. I wrote a couple notes down from the clock, and I want to share them with you. U.S. national debt now has surpassed $27 trillion. Now, we're paying interest on this debt, nearly $4 trillion a year of interest just to manage this debt. Debt per person in America is $82,000 because of this national massive debt. Debt per taxpayer, okay, if you actually have a job, you're $216,000 in debt because of all this federal debt. U.S. federal spending, $7.3 trillion. U.S. federal budget deficit, $4.2 trillion. That means we have $4.2 trillion more dollars going out than coming in. If you ran your personal household like that, you would be in very, very big trouble. What most people cannot digest, what they cannot believe, is that America is bankrupt. The country is broke. It is running the printing presses 24 hours a day to just keep this whole Ponzi scheme going. Total debt to GDP, 154.59%. U.S. workforce in America, we have 147,575,000 people in the workforce. We have 100.6 million people in America not working. U.S. manufacturing jobs in America. This is just a really horrific number. 12.2 million manufacturing jobs in America. This country needs to be, I think 80, 90, 100 million manufacturing jobs. Back in 2000, we had 17.1 million manufacturing jobs. That is just unbelievable how much manufacturing America has lost. 35.6 million people in America, according to the National Debt Clock, 35.6 million people in America are living in poverty. That's over 10% of our population. 28.3 million are living without health insurance. 44.5 million are food stamp recipients, and we've got a lot of them right here in California. M2 money supply right here in the United States. Right now, that number is 18,570,880,000,000. Back in 2000, that number was 4,876,492,000,000. We are being flooded with all of this money, all these injections to keep this Ponzi scheme going. And just take a look at how much farther your dollar went back in 2000, how much farther it went back in 1980. We are being inundated with all of these injections of debt, money being created out of thin air, and it's just debt creation. And it is causing a lot of inflation, even though they tell you there is no inflation, but they're not counting your health costs, they're not counting your rent, your mortgage, they're not counting your grocery bills. Everything is severely manipulated. Median income in America, $34,000. Medium new home, $324,000. Again, I just see this contradiction when I see these housing numbers. Of course, they're counting refis as sales so they can pump up the numbers. But when you have a median income of $34,000 here in America, how in the world are you going to afford a house for $324,000? It just doesn't compute. Back in 2000, the median new home price was $167,000. But yeah, there's no inflation, right? No inflation at all. Medicare enrollees, 60.3 million people here in America. Medicaid recipients, 79.8 million. Full-time workers in America, 122 million. Part-time workers, 25 million. We look at liabilities. Social Security, $21 trillion. Medicare, $32 trillion. But that's not a problem, right? I mean, can anybody connect the dots here? Do you see a problem with so many people retiring in America? These pensions are going to be overloaded. Wages are going down. We have people from all over the world competing for jobs here. We have technology replacing people's jobs. People are making less money than ever. And yet we've got people retiring at a drastically fast pace. We've got these massive pensions that you know have got to be paid into. And when you have so many people retiring and you have less jobs and less you have less opportunity out there, how do you keep this whole thing afloat? U.S. debt held by foreign country, $7.1 trillion. U.S. trade deficit, $830.6 billion. That's a huge deficit. U.S. trade deficit with China right now stands at $302.7 billion. Again, if we do not stand up to China, we're going to have very, very big trouble here in America. But they are cleaning our clock. Student loan debt, $1.6 trillion. That's $39,000 per student. Credit card debt is nearly $1 trillion, and that computes to $6,180 per card holder. So I thought those were just fascinating numbers. And I looked at a couple of states, and I looked at their population and debts. Two states that I've lived in, Illinois and California. California, the population here is a little over 39 million people. We have 5.07 million people currently unemployed. Food stamp recipients right here in California, 4.165 million. Our debt is $561.3 billion. So that is a debt per person of $14,000. So every person, every citizen right here in California would have to pay $14,000 to make this debt whole, to pay this debt off. When we look at Illinois, much smaller population, 12.6 million people. Unemployed in Illinois currently, 1.77 million people. Food stamp recipients, 1.78 million people. Again, there's 12.6 million people in Illinois, and you're looking at nearly 2 million people receiving food stamps. The debt in Illinois is $166.9 billion. The debt per person, $13,100. So every citizen of Illinois would have to divvy up $13,100 to pay this debt off, to make this debt whole. So these numbers are frightening. You should really be concerned with what is happening to your country and what is happening to this economy, because sooner or later, it's going to affect you. You know, people don't worry as long as they have a job. They don't care if their neighbor lost their job, if their friend at church lost their job, some family member lost a job. It doesn't matter until they lose a job. And I'm telling you, with the amount of people I'm seeing roaming the streets out here and all over California, and again, this is the 5th biggest economy in the entire world, not the country, 5th biggest economy in the entire world. Things are happening so quickly here. And what is happening is people are leaving here, and you know, people that have ruined this state, they're coming to your state and they're going to ruin your state. This is not just going to stay in California, and it's not. It's already raising property values in other states like Texas and Arizona. If you go to Lake Havasu and try to buy a house now, everybody's priced out because everybody's fleeing out of Los Angeles because it's destroyed. So, you know, so many of these people destroy their own areas. Now they're coming to your area and they're going to do the same thing. So you're going to see higher prices for a home. You're going to see more homeless people. You're going to see more trash. You're going to see more cities going bankrupt. All this isn't just going to stay here. Look, this is a complete representation right here in California of what's happening to America, what's about to happen to America. So what happens here usually happens somewhere else in America. It starts heading east, and it's already been happening in New York. So you've got the East Coast and West Coast, and everything is going to come right to the middle. So remember, they've destroyed California, they've destroyed New York, and so what do? Now they're going to come to Arizona, they're going to come to Colorado, they're going to come to Tennessee, they're going to come to Missouri, they're coming to Texas, and they're going to ruin. Hopefully they won't. Hopefully many of them learned a lesson to what happened in California. But, you know, I look at parts of Texas and Austin and the homeless epidemic and what is happening there politically. It's happening all over. It's happening in Arizona currently. So it's like, you know, it's getting harder and harder to run away from these events. And it's really, really sad to see what's happening to America politically, socially, economically. It's really, really sad. And this is why it's imperative that you're all making preparations and preparing for this, because there may be nowhere to go. There may be nowhere to go. And for many people, it's hard to just pack up and go. You have businesses or you have a job or you have family. There's just things that hold a lot of people back. And so it's not easy just to snap your fingers and leave, but it's getting harder and harder to find a place to go to because everything is changing and not for the better. Things and areas across the country, other states are beginning to resemble California. And again, this state is a real barometer for America because it's the 5th biggest economy in the entire world. And it has a lot of influence on what happens to the rest of America. And as millions of people flee California and start heading your way, I hope that they don't ruin your state because I'm going to be leaving here and I want to get to a good state. Maybe it's Texas, maybe it's Arizona, maybe it's Arkansas, maybe it's Tennessee. I don't know yet. I don't know. There's so much happening. But I think we're going to know a lot more in 2021. I think we'll know a lot more. And I think that we'll begin to see the ramifications from these massive shutdowns, this economy being completely shut down. Look, this is going to take years and years and years to resolve and to come back. And that's even if it can come back from this. It took over a decade from the Depression of 1929 to recover. Can America even recover from this? I don't know. I don't know. There's just so many variables, so many unknowns, and we don't even know what can happen tomorrow. We don't know what's going to happen leading up to this election, and we especially don't know what's going to happen right after this election. Who's going to be elected? Are we going to see mass chaos? They're preparing us for that now, that things are going to get really bananas after this election. And are we going to have a president November 3rd, or will it be sometime in January, February? Who knows? Nobody knows. Again, variables and unknowns. And so this concerns me with these markets. I do believe that we're going to see some volatility coming very, very shortly. Make sure that you are preparing. Look, all of this is extremely good for gold and silver. Make sure you're putting some cash away, but extremely good for gold and silver. The whole thing's going to implode. There's no doubt. Everything at some point is going to implode. And that means that even gold and silver will, to a point, until people realize that you've got to go to a safe haven. Everybody's going to be running to gold, and that's going to pull silver up. And when people get priced out of gold, because the institutional money, the billionaires, they're all going to come in. It's going to be unobtainable for most people. And then silver's going to have its day, I believe. And so right now, you are looking at things that are extremely cheap. So instead of buying tech stocks for $300 and $400, instead of buying Apple, these things are in massive bubbles right now. Can they go a little higher? Yes, but how much more? You got to be buying the stuff that's on sale, the stuff that you can hold in your hands, the hard, tangible assets. I don't think a tech stock is going to save you from a collapse. Holding something that has real value, real history, a 5,000-year history, God's money, that's going to, I think, have a lot more value than a tech stock. Having security, having food, water, medicine, a tourniquet, being your own personal asset, having a skill set is going to be very, very valuable. So and we're going to work on those skill sets tomorrow. We're heading out to the range. I'll be putting that on Patreon tomorrow. I'm going to have a friend out there who's got a few things to say. So I hope you all tune into Patreon. I'll have that video up tomorrow night, hopefully. If you're not a member of Patreon, please come over, become a member. Some really good stuff there. And I'm going to have a really good video there tomorrow night. So check it out. In the meantime, God bless every one of you. Have a great weekend. Take this weekend and prepare. Get out, get some water, go buy some food, buy some canned food at the grocery store, go buy an ounce of silver, buy an ounce of gold. Do something productive. You know, deep in your heart, you know in your soul, something's coming. And that's because something is coming. And we're going to see the most volatile, chaotic times in human history coming right here to America. America is not immune from the reckoning that is coming. God bless every one of you. Stay safe. Thank God for everything that you have. Be walking close to God every day. He is the ultimate asset. God bless you.